So hello from London and welcome to Global Government FinTech's webinar, Blockchain-Based Bonds, What's Potential for the Public Sector? I'm Ian Hall, I'm the editor of Global Government FinTech, a sister title to Global Government Forum. Both our publications report on innovation in the public sector to serve our core audience of public servants around the world. We're organising this webinar today, the 23rd of March 2023, as blockchain, perhaps best defined as a digital ledger of information about transactions, grows in prominence across financial services. Governments and the public sector more widely are also tuning into this emerging technology's benefits, for example, increasing automation and transparency, as well as the reduction of administrative costs. You can see on the screen just a couple of articles we published recently in our blockchain topic section. But we're seeking to focus today on public issuances of bonds using blockchain, of which there are a growing number of examples. Back in 2018, the World Bank launched the world's first bond to be created, allocated, transferred, and managed through its life cycle using distributed ledger technology. A blockchain-based reporting system involving Poland's Ministry of Finance was launched to track Treasury savings bonds in 2020. The UK, which has been exploring blockchain technology to improve public services since 2016, is among many other governments interested in this area. On the screen, we show 4 examples of recent coverage in Global Government FinTech. We have covered Hong Kong authorities issuing a tokenized green bond, the European Investment Bank launching a world-first sterling-denominated digital bond on blockchain. The EIB actually issued its first digital bond on a public blockchain in 2021, partnering France's central bank. The Swiss city of Lugano's public authority issuing a blockchain bond, an apparent public sector first. It's fantastic that we have a representative from Lugano's administration on the panel today. And Israel's Ministry of Finance and the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange announcing that they were piloting the issuance of digital government bonds on blockchain. And more specific questions during our webinar today are, why would public authorities want to use blockchain for bonds? What are the cross-cutting reasons to do so, and what are specific examples? And what are the obstacles to further exploration and implementation? We will begin by short opening remarks from our 4 panelists, but we aim to save about half the time for interaction and questions from you, our worldwide audience. When you have a question, just click on the Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom and type in your questions. Please note the webinar is being recorded for later circulation. Our hashtag is #GovBlockchainBonds. So we're going to go around the panel one by one for some opening remarks. So first, let's go to Paolo Bortolin, who is Deputy Chief Financial Officer at the City of Lugano and a member of the Swiss City's Crypto and Blockchain Task Force. So Paolo, over to you for up to 6 minutes of opening remarks from Lugano.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Let's start, maybe explain who is Lugano. Not everybody maybe knows our city, our beautiful city. Lugano is located in southern Switzerland, is the only one Italian-speaking, let's say, region where we are from Switzerland. It's a city about 67,000 inhabitants, and we have $500 million yearly budget for the city, and 1 billion outstanding bonds in the market. So we are not so big, but also not so small. And this is probably an example, an interesting example of a middle-sized city working towards reaching a good adoption of blockchain as an infrastructure for the city. Let's say why Lugano is doing that on the blockchain. Well, it's very simple. In our strategic development guidelines, we have said many years ago that Lugano has to become a strategic digital innovation hub. And to reach that point, we have some rules that we have to apply inside of the city. And then we added in 2018 already the word blockchain in our strategic guidelines, telling us that we have to promote projects in the blockchain, realize infrastructure in the blockchain, and promote the whole sector within the city boundaries. Starting from that point, Lugano has already done some interesting project there. First of all, we have our own stablecoin, which is named Luga. It's working very well inside of the city. It's a circular economy used by 9,000 citizens and 300 merchants. We have our own blockchain, 3achain.org, and that's a blockchain of the city, which is at disposal of everybody if somebody wants to make projects on that blockchain. We have also launched the Lugano's Plan B program, which is a very interesting, innovative program. Is a joint initiative with Tether Limited. Tether is the USDT stablecoin, the biggest in the world. Probably everybody knows about Tether. So with Tether, we are developing all projects inside of the city administration and in the city territory. And we want to become basically an international hub for the adoption of crypto and blockchain. So after saying that, last January, when I had to issue 100 million bond as a normal treasury activity, we decided to go for a blockchain-based digital platform. That was a normal and a very simple move. If you want to become a hub for blockchain, you have to move towards the blockchain technology. So we issued this 100 million bond on the SDX platform, which is SIX Digital Exchange. SDX is the world first fully regulated platform. It's owned by the Swiss Stock Exchange, SIX, and basically is really the stock exchange on the blockchain for the Swiss market. It's brand new. They got the license on 2021. It was basically not yet used. The first two bonds was done, one by SDX itself and one by UBS, which is one of the banks participating to the platform. So Lugano came in January with the real first digital bond in Switzerland, made by somebody who was not involved in the platform. We basically put together all the stakeholders. That was SDX itself, ZKB, which is Zürcher Cantonal Bank, that was the lead manager, Moody's, who is our rating agency, and ourselves. And we worked many days and many meetings to understand if our bond based on the blockchain, which is of the SDX platform, was carrying some more additional risk, and that could influence the rating of Moody's. So Moody's was really concerned about and understanding the technology. So we spent hours and hours in big meetings, like almost 20 people at the same time. So at the end of the day, SDX stated that the bond had the same rating as the issuer, so as the city, and that was the move to go for the issue, because with a lower rating, we would have just stopped the project. I could not explain, to the politicians why I should pay more spread just because I would like to do a bond based on the blockchain. So basically, everything went well. We opened the book at 9 a.m. An hour and a half later was closed. We collected 100 million at exactly the spread we were expecting. So everything was fine, perfect. Just the work to prepare for this was a little bit complicated, because we had to exchange a lot of information among the stakeholders, do an investor call to explain to the investor why we were doing this. So different bonds as Lugano was used to do. But at the end of the day, also the investors all reacted very well. They accepted the fact that was something completely new, and they subscribed for the bond. Yes, I won't add more information than that at the beginning of the panel, just to say that at the end of the day, the Swiss National Bank included our bond in the global collateral basket, which is the basket that the financial sector can use for repos. And that was also very important first in the history of Switzerland, probably, I don't know if around the world. And then the bond is also in the Swiss index bond, the Swiss bond index are in Switzerland. So also another interesting point. And then just the news that I received yesterday, we have been awarded by a financial award. I cannot mention the portal who's doing that because it's not public yet. They will publish this, but we got let's say an award for one of the most interesting deal of the year by this portal. And that to me is very amazing, because normally those kind of awards they go to not public sector initiative, but normally companies or innovative companies or financial institutions that are more innovative than that. But so basically this is a little bit the story.
Paolo, thanks very much. That's it. I think you're almost bang on 6 minutes as well. So first of all, thank you for keeping it to time. That's a really excellent summary. Global Government FinTech exists to to report on, analyse and champion public sector-led innovation. So that sounds like, to date at least, this, the bond issuance in Lugano is so far at least, it sounds like a great kind of use case on that. I'm sure, as I say, we have a global audience today, so I imagine a lot of the audience are tuned in because they're exploring this area of bond issuance by blockchain. And it sounds like you've got one of the relatively few
Yes.
ready-made case studies. So I'm sure a lot of the audience are interested in that. So we'll come back in the discussion to various more questions on that. But thanks for that great introduction. So now we're going to go north in Europe, up to the Baltics to Latvia. So we're going to go to Dina Buza from the Ministry of Finance. So Dina, if I can pass the floor to you for kind of up to 6 minutes of your kind of initial comments on this from the perspective of Latvia.
Yes, thank you. Maybe I will also start with a very short introduction. Latvia is one of the Baltic countries. We are quite small country, only approximately 2 million inhabitants, but we are members of the European Union, and we also, as our currency, use euro. So we are part of European level regulation for financial services, and therefore we are the jurisdiction which can enjoy also all the benefits of the free movement of capital and all the innovative initiatives which European Union is currently spearheading. We are, of course, planning to implement the DLT pilot regime regulation. We will go also for a very fast track of implementation of market in crypto assets regulation. We are also part of the discussion for digital euro and all the prospective legislation which will come with this project, and also the instant payments. We are just recently adopted also our fintech strategy. Fintech strategy is focusing on different matters, and one of it is, of course, regulation and favorable regulation for development of fintech. As previous speaker already mentioned, that there have to be some preparation done before you can go and you can reap benefits of the fintech and also of this new technology. And so basically it is all about possibility to have the regulation on possibility to trade on stock exchange, as well for the ratings, and as well there's a place for regulation on using of this DLT for different financial services. And we have positioned ourselves as one of the jurisdictions which will really be one of the leaders in attraction of talent in progressive legislation, and also for attraction of different market players from fintech, different countries, and now I'm just using this opportunity that we are listened by the very large audience, and I would really like to bring attention to us as a very favorable jurisdiction for possibility for development of fintech solutions. If we are speaking about the possibility to use the blockchain, we see that this technology is indeed progressive, and it can be used for not only for the government, it can be also used for the private market participants as well. The most recent examples, of course, are use of the DLT technology for issuance of virtual currencies, but there is also a potential for issuing of government bonds, and there should be, of course, it have to be taken as one of the directions, also to come in line with our current transformation of the financial sector. It can be also looked at the perspective that we can use it for sustainability bonds. Latvia has been one of the countries which issued the sustainable bonds in 2021, and we see that in the market there is a very high potential for the uptake of it. Therefore, I think the most logical next step is just to look at the possibility to issue the bonds using this opportunity of the technology, of the new technology. As already our moderator told, that it really saves time, costs, and it is very efficient. So we are potentially looking also at this direction. So this is a very short from my side. Thank you.
Thanks, Dina. That's great. Obviously, making the point fairly early on that Latvia is an EU member, so it's kind of as is Slovenia, our next country. So it's a kind of a question of, as far as I understand it, waiting for the rules to be set in Brussels, and then the next step of kind of implementing and then moving from there. It was interesting you mentioned early on about the prospect of a digital euro, a central bank digital currency, and I don't for the Eurozone, and I don't see today's webinar particularly focusing on central bank digital currencies, but I know that Bruno in Brazil, I suspect, will be mentioning the context of CBDC in terms of his remarks, in terms of where Brazil is at. So I think there's some crossover with the initiatives that the central bank is doing in Brazil. But on a similarly EU member state related note, let's now go to Ljubljana and to the capital of Slovenia, and go over to Nina, who works in the Ministry of Economic Development. And I know that Nina is obviously really wearing her Slovenia hat today, but is also involved in a very lengthy number of different European level blockchain projects as well. So I imagine during the discussion we may come on to some of those as well. So thanks, Dina, for your 6 minutes, and now let's go to Slovenia for Nina's opening remarks.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well. And I would like just to add to Dina what she's saying about European legislation, and then talk about a little bit what is about European initiatives here, what we have. I have to say that we adopted also the strategy for capital markets, which indicates the integration of EU legislation on DLT pilot regime, which was mentioned earlier, and on MiCA, so the regulation for crypto assets, into our legislation, taking into account also that cybersecurity regulation DORA, which is very closely connected with this. And that will be a sort of introduction of blockchain technology into the financial sector. We know that we have already this in the financial sector, but mostly through cryptocurrencies and crypto exchanges. We had one of the most famous European crypto exchange, Binance, but we are also well known for crypto payments. We have the company Go Crypto. It is having a lot of market for retail cover, but crypto payment possibilities. So somehow in the future, it will need to come together. The classical regulation that is trying to regulate this part, and also that crypto regulation that is more or less self-regulatory concept, which puts the rules for crypto users and crypto implementation. In Europe, we are also member of European Blockchain Partnership and quite intensively developing European blockchain services infrastructure, which is important for two things. One thing is that we are trying to implement that European blockchain services infrastructure European-wide, but also interoperable with the other countries that would be interested for using this. Okay, it is beneficial not only for the decreasing of costs, reducing of the time, rising the transparency and authentication, authorization, and speeding up of the processes. But also here is the benefit for the society. If we, for example, have a diploma in one country, using that blockchain use case for diploma, okay, and interoperable infrastructure, my certificate can be seen and approved also with Irish government, for example, Irish faculty. I can open the company there upon that certificate. I can access to market. There are more also economic benefits arising out of that blockchain infrastructure and also use cases. What else we are doing on the European level? We are actually developing basic public infrastructure use cases. The first is self-sovereign identity. Okay, we know that we have now the process in Europe, which is the modification of eIDAS regulation. Modification was needed. eIDAS is on electronic records of the data. So the modification was needed for two purposes. One was because we are facing the challenges with the new technologies, and we need to take data into appropriate manner. And then also we are talking about EU wallets and with regards to the self-sovereign identity and also corporate identity, which will be developed there. And this is one of the attributable service for blockchain-based service infrastructure. The second is for diplomas, I already mentioned. The third one, the third use case is for social security pass. It is also for the benefit for society. For example, if I go abroad in some other country, if all my data is put on blockchain on the platform, I can always have a social protection even outside of my country, because the data will be accessible, okay, by permissioned concept. So they will not be open but closed. But in any case, I will have the benefit from that transition of the data or having that social security pass. And the third use case that we are developing is traceability use case. We know that we can trace the data, we can trace the documents, we can trace the products, the materials. So we are starting to develop that traceability use case, which has two pillars. Actually, one is for data and documents, which is different from products and materials, because usually documents have already somewhere recorded data, and products and materials do not have recorded data yet, and the solution is still to be developed. For the digital euro, it is very interesting that they started to talk about this. 2 years ago, it was quite intensive discussion. European Central Bank, they prepared also the report, but now we are quite in some in between the decision of going more aggressive into digital euro or wait a little bit until technology really develops. For blockchain bonds, I think this is the very promising technology for bonds. In any case, if we take into account security tokens, which are a financial instrument, a type of financial instrument, then we can explain also blockchain bonds as a kind of security tokens which are already in service and used by either financial institutions, innovators, the companies, and the users. So from my side, 1 minute more, but I hope that I explained enough. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nina. So obviously some of that was looking at different use cases of blockchain outside of bonds, kind of at a European level, but obviously you've touched there as well on specifically on bonds. If I can just, before we go to Brazil and go to Bruno, if I can just, I just want to try and summarize both where Latvia and Slovenia as countries are. Am I right to say that where we have the kind of the difference in the panel at the moment is, as we've heard from Paolo, Lugano has issued a bond via blockchain, whereas for specifically Latvia's government and Slovenia's government, you are yet to do so, although it's an area of definite interest, and you're yet to do so because you're waiting for European legislation. If I go to Dina first, just to summarize in terms of blockchain bonds, you're interested in the area, but you're yet to do so, awaiting European legislation. Is that correct? So Dina first.
Yes, correct. Yes. So,
okay. Sorry, go ahead, Dina. Sorry.
No, it's okay. What we see is really the first step is development of this regulation, and we know that we have to also look at what is done at the European level, and so we will go in parallel with all the initiatives which are on the European level. So yes, we are exploring the possibilities. And we are really very looking forward for possibility to implement it, but we have not yet had any issuance.
If Latvia were to want to do a blockchain bond issuance, if the technology allowed and the suppliers were there, would you be able to do it then? Would you actually be able to do it?
Basically, what is needed is this generally favorable environment and regulation, which is implemented for DORA, for MiCA, and of course also this DLT pilot regime regulation.
Yeah. So it's obviously more than one thing coming from EU level. So the market and crypto asset regulation, the digital operational resilience, and more, and then the DLT pilot regime. And am I correct to say that the pilot regime has actually come into effect today? Is that correct?
Yes,
I know.
Yes, you're right.
Okay, so that is. I'm going to say we planned it. We planned this webinar on the day the EU DLT pilot regime came into play. Nina, thank you, Dina. Nina, have I summarised as well? It sounds like Slovenia is in the same position then as Latvia, as you said at the start. There are these different EU rules coming, and Slovenia is interested in the prospect of blockchain bond issuance.
Yeah. You summarized it very well. Okay, we are waiting for the regulation, But on the other hand, we already have a kind of pilot national infrastructure, which is called SI chain, and we can already test them on DLT pilot regime. It needs to be for them for some certain environment, safe environment under which public data will flow and so on. But on the other hand, we can already use our national use cases and the infrastructure and simulate how it will be through the DLT pilot regime. And also we have developed, but on the private side, a kind of security tokens which can be translated like financial instrument, which can be also used as a blockchain bond. So there exists certain use cases, and also European Commission stimulates member states to apply their own use cases to see how the technology works and to come closer to the European solutions as well. So it's not one-way process, only what we get from the Commission. This is one of the golden things that we take it as such. But there is also a chance to develop something on the national level and then integrate it to what will be developed by the Commission, also within the DLT pilot regime.
Great, thanks, Nina. We just so you know, your connection went a little bit fuzzy for about the first 20 seconds. So we lost the very first thing you said about at Slovenian national level. It might have been a reference to a specific Slovenian.
Yeah,
I think.
We actually have our Slovenian national service blockchain infrastructure. It was the first launched national infrastructure on the world. Okay. Before China launched its infrastructure. So what we can do, and we know that other countries have their own national infrastructures to be mature. When the DLT pilot regime comes, we can easily integrate what we have to the European one and then use it for practical use. I think that the process needs to go in parallel to develop the national level, but also to integrate a DLT pilot regime for the Commission level.
Great, thanks, Nina. Again, the line unfortunately went slightly fuzzy, but only for about 5 seconds. Just again, before we come to Bruno in Brazil, I just wanted to remind our online audience that we're very much welcoming your questions. So do type them in the box at the bottom. We do have a question already, which we'll come to after we've gone to Bruno in Brazil. But the question that is visible on the screen to me is, what aspects of the use cases specifically benefit from DLT compared to just using standard digital technology upgrades? I see that Paolo has already kind of responded to that. Once we will have a Swiss CBDC at our disposal. Interesting. So obviously I know that so we know that Switzerland is outside the EU, but is exploring its own CBD digital Swiss franc as well. I know that's quite well progressed at the wholesale CBDC stage. Maybe the retail argument is kind of less aired and less progressed, but potentially we'll come back to CBDC in the discussion. Speaking of which, I think CBDC, central bank digital currencies, is a part of Bruno's story in Brazil. So let's go to last but not least to Bruno in Brazil.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ian. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. Fantastic information and insights from my colleagues here. And I'm looking forward to discuss a little further on the question section. Regarding Brazil, I think it's like interesting to give just a quick overview of what we did until we reached the Digital Real pilot. And the Digital Real pilot is directly related to the topic of this conversation. So we're exploring tokenized federal government bonds, but it's interesting to have a little bit of context before. Here at the Central Bank of Brazil, we actually started researching CBDC and DLT for a long time ago. I think it was during the beginning of 2016. We actually have like working papers and reports on both topics in 2017 and 18. But we got like this kind of research more seriously after we established a working group, a CBDC working group during the year of 2020. And since then it was like a kickstart of the Digital Real project. We've been from the 2020 we've been mostly like researching, and until last year we are just structuring the topics and the agenda as a whole. But since last year we began a CBDC lab that we call Live Challenge Real Digital. And we explored 9 projects. Actually, there were 47 projects that applied for the Live Challenge. We selected 9, and it was quite interesting because at the time we explored different use cases. We didn't restrict it on the use cases. We wanted to understand what was interesting from like use cases to apply DLT technology and tokenization. And we have like some cases that were tokenizing real estate, others receivables, others related to cross-border transfers. One, for instance, this one in partnership with Central Bank of Colombia. So we are trying to understand the demand side and also get some kind of exposure related to the technology. So each project were free to choose what kind of tech stack they wanted. So we have like some projects using EVM, others Corda, others Demo, and so on. So, but now we are like moving to a different phase, and that's with the digital pilot, the CBDC pilot phase, because now we are establishing a basic infrastructure for the use case to build on top of. And the first use case is related to tokenizing federal government bonds. Could like change the slides, please. Next. I tried to pick the most important guidelines for this debate here. Actually, we have like 9 guidelines for the Digital Real project. But just to get a little bit of a better understanding from the audience, I think it's relevant to highlight that the main goal is like to focus on innovative business models with emerging technologies. And the first use case will be in partnership with the Brazilian Treasury. But before I go a little bit into that, it's important also to highlight that it will be like a DVP use case, so delivery vest payment. We'll be delivering federal government bonds against deposit tokens from financial institutions or payment institutions. So there will be 3 types of assets, and I'll go a little bit deeper on the next slide. But before that, also we are adopting an infrastructure based on the DLT. We can handle multiple assets, not only government bonds, and we'll be moving on other kind of assets. And then I can talk a little bit after the presentation. We want during the provision of financial products and services, we want to focus on the decentralization also, and also to allow composability between products and services. And of course, this infrastructure will interoperate with central banks, legacy systems, the payment systems in Brazil, and other third-party systems as well. And it's not the focus on this first exploration of tokenized bonds, but we will also we will also explore international payments, but not in the initial phase. If you can, next slide, please. As I mentioned, we had 3 kind of assets. We have the deposits at the financial institutions. The payments institutions also be integrating the deposits. and we'll have the treasury integrate the federal government bonds. Here in Brazil, just interesting information is that the central bank is already the one responsible for the whole back-end infrastructure of the treasury bonds, because we handle all the systems and services, and we also the dealer for the treasury. So it made sense, like to have as a first use case, since the systems are central bank systems, even though we are dealing with treasury bonds. We thought that it would be interesting to partner with the treasury and explore how we could move further from what we have nowadays, like traditional infrastructure, from a decentralized infrastructure. So we're exploring programmability, the issuance and redemption, the transfers, and the DVP at the end customer level. And one thing that's interesting that we don't have nowadays, the current setup, is that we also will be exploring a marketplace for peer-to-peer for peer-to-peer trades. So if you want like to sell your treasury bonds for some it could be possible, but just an exploration. It's important to highlight that it's a pilot phase, so we won't be live, although we try to integrate very intensively the systems and try to figure out what kind of innovation, not only on the end user but also on the architecture and the technology side, we can reach. It won't be a live pilot, but we'll try to be the as most real as possible. Next, please. And here's just to illustrate the parties. So we have like Bank A, Bank B. You have like the retail wallets, the buyer, the seller, and the issuer of federal government bonds, which the Tesouro Nacional, the Brazilian treasury here in Brazil. And we'll also have payment institutions besides banks also. We were calling Pix for financial service because in Brazil we were very successful with the launch of Pix on 2020, and we onboarded more than 40 million users that didn't have digital accounts here in Brazil. So, but it was mostly related to payments, and now we are exploring the digital real infrastructure to we are focusing on financial service and broader financial products besides payments. So we think that DLT, smart contracts, and the whole tokenization agenda can be fundamental for the next step here at the Central Bank of Brazil. If you can move to the next slide, please. And on the tech side, we for the pilot phase, at least, we decided to go with Hyperledger Besu, which is like a EVM compatible network. So we had like some time to explore the use case from Lift Challenge and got a lot of exposure on the tech side, and the tech team at the Central Bank of Brazil thought it would be suitable to deploy the Hyperledger Besu for the pilot. And please, the next one. This is just a timeline. We just launched actually the pilot on March, and next month we will be holding a workshop. So we will welcome market participants, and we will disclose a call for the participants to participate in this pilot. And on May we'll be onboarding these participants after a selection phase. And by the end of the year, we'll be integrating the payment tokens. So we call it tokenized digital real. Digital real is the wholesale side of the payment token, because the interbank side will be using digital real, the actual CBDC, to settle transactions. And we are calling tokenized real the retail side of the payment token, because they will be mostly deposit tokens from PSPs and financial institutions. And only on the beginning of next year, we'll be integrating the federal government bonds. So yeah, we'll have like multiple phases, and we are like taking a step-by-step approach. But and after the end of this pilot, we will be evaluating the onboard of other use cases. We're calling other protocols. So not only bonds, but any kind of assets. For instance, even you were talking previously about ESG products, so sustainability linked loans, green bonds, etc. will be possible, but actually probably the first ideal candidates are the ones that are related directly to financial products, and we have an active partnership with our Brazilian our counterpart of SEC in Brazil, which is called CVM, and we'll be onboarding like the tokenized securities and other financial products as well. But this only will be during the next phase next year, and that's pretty much it. And I'm sorry if I went a little bit further.
Thanks, Bruno. No problem at all, because that's a really good kind of overview of, for me, what struck me as I heard you and looking at the slides is kind of how it's very difficult, both in the cases of Lugano, but also Brazil, to look at blockchain bond issuance by the public sector in isolation. It's both in Lugano, the picture that Paolo painted is it's part of this much wider enthusiasm and adoption of blockchain and encouragement of blockchain in the public sector. And there in Brazil, it's part of a much broader kind of digital money and tokenization drive that is kind of wrapped up with the central bank digital currency. So just one specific question on that for Brazil, and I know it was probably on the timeline, as you said, I think May was the onboarding of participants. Was that for effectively a wholesale CBDC trial? I may have misunderstood what you meant by participants there.
Yeah, we'll be onboarding participants, for instance, financial institutions, banks, payment institutions, financial market infrastructure, technology providers. So everyone that will somehow be part directly on the pilot phase. So we'll have a call that will be disclosed next month, on the beginning of next month. And then we'll have like a selection period until all the participants that applied will be chosen. And after that, we'll begin the pilot phase with the help of market participants. Will not be like closed inside the central bank. We want to engage the market as well to create the best possible solution.
Great, thank you. And just one other question for the audience who aren't so familiar with Brazil. One clarification is you've referred to PIX. Just so people who aren't yet familiar with PIX understand what that is and why PIX relates to this whole picture. And then after that, I want to go back to Paolo in Lugano, just for Paolo's reactions to I guess first of all perhaps what you've heard from Dina and Nina, but also your reactions to this the project in Brazil as well. But Bruno, just back to you for our audience who aren't so familiar with Brazil, to explain why the introduction of PIX is important and why it relates to the potential blockchain bond issuance.
No, perfect. Well, first, PIX is our fast payment solution here in Brazil. In Brazil, we call Pagamento Instantâneo, PI, and we have the X for the branding side. And PIX was like a huge success in Brazil because we, as I mentioned, we onboarded more than 40 million Brazilian users, and PIX became a verb. I was talking previously on the backstage with Ian. Yeah, here we okay, you can you PIX me, or you can send a payment, instant transfer. You usually say, can you PIX me? So it became very famous here in Brazil, but PIX was mostly related to payment service, which are great, but they are like the onboard of financial service, right? So just the first step. And we understand that the next step will be trying to promote some efficiency and innovation regarding financial products and broader financial service. So PIX is great because we onboarded a lot of Brazilians, And now we think blockchain technology and smart contracts and tokenization can help us to move from where we are to the next step. So that's why, even though it's a CBDC project, and we see that many CBDC projects really focus on the payment side, because some countries, they don't have like a fast payment system on a national level that really works. So some CBDC projects are trying to leapfrog from the lack of this infrastructure, this payment infrastructure. And so they are giving focus on the payment side. Here in Brazil, we already have the PIX. We already have a strong open banking agenda here. And we were thinking, what would be next for us? So we are started like to look into emerging technologies such as DLT. And we think that it can really help us on moving to a more tokenized financial system. And the central bank wants like to be this neutral player and provide like a basic infrastructure to onboard all market participants and have the most of network effects that we can.
Great, thanks, Bruno. So Paolo, it's been a while since we heard from you. So if I can come back to you for reactions to what you've heard from your three colleagues, but probably particularly the experience in Brazil, I guess. But Paolo, back to you.
Well, I'm just very happy this is happening. I mean, you know, to see all the countries around the world, they have now a big opportunity to make big step ahead on the financial infrastructure, on their processes, etc. I'm just really amazed that how advanced. I mean, I'm not amazed because I know a lot about all the projects there, but it's something that has to happen, and it gives the opportunity to go really faster than expected in the past. If you take Switzerland, we have probably one of the most advanced financial infrastructure in the world. So the question is, why are you doing all these guys? I mean, you're already working well. Our post offices are working perfectly. You send a letter today at 6 p.m., tomorrow at 8 is on the table of the person you want to. So it's just because we want to innovate, we want to keep going, you know, to be in the top of the world on the efficiency. But it's true, today, all the countries can do this, starting from maybe a lower point. So from a lower point to come up is very difficult. But here they are just you are making just big jumps. You know, you cut what is in the middle, what we have built in the last 40 years, you just go straight to the most innovative. And this is an advantage that many countries have because they don't have so developed infrastructure that now if you want to have a new one, you just get to the best. We have to change ours slowly. So this advantage I really appreciate because this pushes the world at the same speed, or actually you guys have a better speed than ours. We try to keep up, like Lugano try to keep up with this, but still, you know, if the government decides to do a CBDC in Brazil, they do it. In Switzerland, we are really advanced on this. You know, the Swiss National Bank is really advanced in the research and let's say in the way they want to approach the blockchain and the CBDCs. But still, you know, in Switzerland, 700 years of democracy, very, you know, slow. So I think it's fantastic what is going on in the world right now.
Paolo, I think kind of related to that is, and I hadn't necessarily anticipated us having this discussion, but potentially there's an internal cultural change issue as well, because it sounds like obviously Lugano is in the vanguard of advocating for the use of blockchain, but I imagine there are people, certainly residents of Lugano, but probably also people within the administration who don't understand blockchain, maybe skeptical of the technology. I mean, that's true in all organizations in all countries. I imagine it's true in Latvia, Slovenia, in the Central Bank of Brazil, etc. So for those members of the audience who are hearing a lot about blockchain and or DLT and thinking, well, it sounds attractive, it sounds like it offers potential in different areas. Let me go again back to Paolo just to say, what would be your kind of key messages for that I imagine you've probably used internally as well in Lugano for those people who say, sorry, why are we doing this? Why can't we just do a bond issuance in a kind of paper-based, in a traditional way? You know, what's the proof that it's a good idea so far?
Yes, and actually we got this question from the politicians here. I mean, what we are doing is very innovative, but at the same time we are, you know, having a lot of discussion around as for the citizen, for the politician. Not everybody agrees that we have to go to this direction. But my answer is very easy. I mean, the blockchain and crypto technology, it's there. I mean, I was convincing in 2018, 17 already. So I'm part of this world since those years, which seems to be very far away, but it's like 5 years ago. And now we are there, right? You know, CBDCs in Brazil, etc. All the projects in Latvia, etc. In Slovenia, which they are really advanced. So many countries are really advanced. So why we should not do it? I mean, we should test it, try it, integrate in our processes, try to understand, be ready for the next step. Because if now I'm accepting Bitcoin and my Luga, which is my stable coin for the payments, I can integrate it in my processes. When the Swiss francs comes, the Swiss francs digital franc, then I'm ready with my processes. So I don't have to spend much more on that. So it's all about learning curve. So we have to try. Naturally, as a city, we don't have to take risks. So I'm not going to issue a bond on a public blockchain, which I don't know if in 10 years they're still there, because, you know, a bond is maybe for 20 years. So I choose SDX, which is the official stock exchange. So no risk for that. And Moody's confirmed that. So we are doing steps, innovative steps, which to me are very simple steps. I mean, I haven't done anything special. I'm just issue a bond on a platform which exists since 2 years and nobody's using it or was not using yet. So now this is stimulating the other institution to do it. And we will push them to do it. And they call me, some banks call me, should we participate to the platform? Yes, you should. I mean, try it.
So related to that, within Switzerland, have other cantons, if I'm right, or of other authorities, not at the national level, but at the kind of regional level, you know, have they been calling you? Hey, you know, hey, Paolo, we've heard about this blockchain bond issuance. Are they looking to do the same thing?
Let's say they didn't call me, and I know basically all the treasurer of the cantons because I've been the treasurer of the canton of Ticino for 10 years, so I know everybody. They didn't call me, but I'm sure they're working on it. Yes, I'm in discussion with the treasurer of the canton of Ticino, which is the canton, the regional government where we are. We are discussing about this, so we are really advanced on discussion because we have to exchange information. I received call from Japan. I received call from you guys from where you are, and I received calls from another country, which I will not mention. So there are interests, and there are banks calling me, asking me why you did this. I say, come on, why you did not do this before? So this is just my very simple answer. The technology is there, is working well, it's secure. Why not to do it? I mean, it doesn't take my time more than some days for the first time. Now, in an hour, I can do the same in just 1 hour. So I'm ready for the future.
I have one more question for you, Paolo, before I'm then going to go to Dina and then Nina and then Bruno. In terms of that question of if you have internal skeptics saying, you know, why should we be doing blockchain? What's your very concise reason? And my question, Paolo, for you is that when Lugano did your blockchain bond issuance, it was for Swiss francs, 100 million Swiss francs, which is about 88 million pounds. I just happened to notice that Hong Kong's, which the tokenized green bond issuance, which was just before that, I think, or maybe just after, was 800 million Hong Kong dollars, which is pretty much the same level. It's about 85 million pounds. Are they all around this amount? I think there was another one that was, I think the European Investment Bank was also around 100 million euros or pounds. Again, for those watching who are, who are hearing some of the messages from the conversation, one thing I was keen to discuss was simply the amount of the issuance. Why are they all around the same level? Sorry, do they seem to be? Back to you, Paolo.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So of the bond issuances that there seem to have been, so the Lugano one, the Hong Kong one that I've referenced, the European Investment Bank, the overall price or total price of the bond issuance is roughly 90 million pounds or 100 million euros, I guess, roughly. So that they all seem like they're roughly priced at the same size, at the same amount.
They price exactly the same, perfectly. The spread was expecting, it was exactly the same as a traditional bond. So there was no additional cost. I was just scared that the investor will not buy it because they didn't know how to manage the bond after they bought it. But at the end of the day, with this investors call, we reached like 25 investors, and we explained this is exactly the same. The bank will manage this for you. So just please participate, because it's just to launch this new way to do bonds, which will benefit to you in the future too.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I recall at the time, and you mentioned the importance of the Moody's rating agency's verdict, which is that they said different technology will not add materially higher risk compared to a traditional issuance. So I understand that, but my question was about the overall price of the bond issuance, so being 100 million Swiss francs. Was there a reason that it was at that amount? Is every time there is a bond?
There is a very good reason. If you issue less than 100 million, you don't get integrated inside of the Swiss bond index. And if you are not in the Swiss bond index, and maybe in the Swiss collateral basket of Swiss National Bank, then the value of the bond is a little bit less. They ask you for more spread. So in Switzerland, if you issue a bond, you go 100 million is the minimum up. Otherwise, you don't go.
Perfect, thank you.
That's just a technical question.
Exactly. But I think a lot of the audience who are maybe looking into case study examples, as it sounds like they are of this, that was a question. As I was looking at these examples, I thought they all seem to be around the same price. So, Dina, do you have any kind of reactions at this point, maybe on the cultural change angle in terms of we're talking really about the possibilities of blockchain, but I imagine there are internal audiences who would need convincing as to the value. So do you have a kind of reaction to that?
My reaction is that we understand that this is the reality. This is a very innovative technology. And from our perspective, we see that it will be a very, very near future. So we are ready to embrace the change, and also our institutions are ready to new models. So we are already now working in different settings. Our financial regulatory authorities developing all the also the cases in Sandbox, just together with the market participants, not only to view the innovation, but also to guide and to help with the precise modeling, because we know and we understand that this is the future, this is our future, and this will be our next reality, so to say.
Thanks, Dina. So, Bruno, before I come back to you in Brazil, Nina, I sense you may be struggling a little with your internet bandwidth, but I think you're still there. So the same question for you in Ljubljana, in terms of, obviously you're personally involved in so many different European initiatives. You're clearly a blockchain advocate, but what's your message for kind of your internal audience in Slovenia, for those who maybe don't understand blockchain, or how do you kind of convince them of the value and the potential value in blockchain, Nina?
We had a very interesting story. We had the minister who was a little bit older person, and when we started to develop blockchain, it was a question how to explain to him what is blockchain in 5 sentences. So first, what I say is we need to be clear and to clear and in comprehensive way explain what is the benefit or what is technology for. then what are the benefits from the technology? Okay, how the regulators can behave. If they want to regulate something, they need to know, they need to have appropriate knowledge about this. They need to understand. So what we did in Slovenia, because we are developing this now for from 2018, we are training, we are raising awareness to the regulator responsible for that MiCA regulation and DLT pilot regime, and slowly they are getting more and more information and starting to understand. But what I think is that we also did one other thing to integrate the blockchain technology into the business processes of the companies, make them work in better and more economic way, to make the technology seamless.
Nina, I'm afraid you're slightly cutting in and out. So I think the audience is
to make it wording immersive. Immersive, know which technology they use. I don't know. Is it better now?
Yes, it is. Yes. So maybe if you keep your video off.
Yeah, I will keep my video off. I know that this is the problem. Okay. Actually, I was telling, first we need to train the regulators, then we need to train the ministries, then we need to raise awareness on the level of the companies, but we also need to somehow bring this closer to the people, that they start to use it, that they start to use the applications based on blockchain, and to slowly transform the culture of business, the culture of society, with that new technologies. And what I started to explain was that we need to find the way how to integrate that in immersive way, so that they should probably not know that they are using the technology exactly, but we integrate it into this. Today we don't care which internet provider we have. Okay, we know that we have web, and when we switch into Web3, which is now promising technology for the future, we hope that also the people will be there, educated, trained, and change-minded, also to embrace that new technology.
Nina, thank you. So we heard educate ministers, educate the regulators, educate companies, educate citizens. It's all it's an ongoing awareness challenge. I'm aware that we've got about kind of 7 minutes left of the overall session if we're going to finish on time. So Bruno, back to you for your there's kind of multiple things to pick up. So I imagine you've got one or two thoughts, and then we'll close the session with kind of a final go round to come back to you all with any kind of final points and your kind of key messages for the audience answering the question. So Bruno, back to Brazil for your reflections on some of the points we just heard.
Perfect. Picking up from the comments of Dina and Nina, blockchain technology in DLT as a whole can be very disruptive, but and can really create opportunities and remove inefficiencies. So we're like looking at very seriously. At the Central Bank of Brazil is studying DLT and tokenization in multiple different areas. For instance, besides the Digital Real initiative, the CBDC project, we also have a fintech lab called Lift Lab. It's almost like an accelerator. So it's been for a while already. So we have like multiple batches, and we've been receiving applications for different companies, different projects to test drive in partnership with the Central Bank of Brazil, blockchain technology, DLT tokens, and smart contracts. We also have a regulatory sandbox that sometimes we waiver from the regulatory perspective some specific points. And we also received, and we have like projects running that are related to DLT and tokenization. And more recently, on January, we started a working group to focus on tokenization. That's a little bit broader than the Digital Real initiative. So we are looking at the whole market, like especially for financial service and products. And maybe one of the outcomes from this working group that will probably run by the end of this year, until the end of this year, will be the proposal of some regulatory adjustments and updates to better serve this industry, and really lower the barriers and give more assurance and confidence from a regulatory standpoint for market participants to really go further with these initiatives. And this topic's getting really mainstream. For instance, we just finished the Lift Challenge Digital Real, which was the CBDC lab that we run the 9 proof of concepts. And after we finished, we started on September last year, and we finished on February. And we received like we received, for instance, we were ranked. We received some recognitions, and we are ranked the first of the most influential projects of the PMI Institute, Project Management Institute, and also they have like a broader rank that they have different industry, different projects, not only related to financial service or DLT. And we are ranked 7 on the global PMI list, alongside with Webb Space Telescope. So that's how mainstream this kind of technology and this kind of innovative projects, even though one of like from the public sector, it's been getting a lot of attention. So yeah, I think just going to try to move further, and it's just only the beginning.
Thanks, Bruno. And also with your timeline, sounds like it's accelerating to an extent as well, doesn't it? In Brazil, but it is everywhere. So we've probably only got time for kind of a maximum of kind of 1 minute each left if we're going to keep to time. But the plan is just to go round the panel in the same order. To go back to the title of the webinar, as I reached for it, it was blockchain-based bonds, what potential for the public sector? So I think we've kind of tackled that question, pretty well with the Lugano is kind of already there. We've seen the timeline for where Brazil is, and we've heard the perspective of the 2 EU member states as well on that question. So the final question is just what are your kind of hopes and aspirations for what's coming up for kind of blockchain in your territory or your continent kind of over the next year? What's your kind of key message and for the audience? And if I can ask each of you to keep that to 1 minute maximum. So let's go with Paulo first for your kind of closing remarks on that.
Yes, very short. I think in the next 12 months, many bonds will be issued on SDX, so digitally in Switzerland. So other people will join us. Also, the CBDC will come, not in the next 12 months, but maybe in 2-3 years. I'm sure the Swiss National Bank will set this, and this will help a lot for the atomic settlement. So we can really issue the bond and trade the bond instantly. That will be perfect. And then around the world, new platform will be just, be regulated by the governments, so everybody can move from the traditional bonds to the digital bonds, because there is a lot of advantages to do that. And this is my key message: to do a bond on the blockchain today is the same. You don't gain, you don't lose. But I believe in 5 years, everything will happen in the digital platforms. And at that point, we can reduce dependency on the banks, because we don't need the banks as we need them today. This means that we will reduce a lot of the costs. And actually, I think the most important is that we can reach a broader base of investors, because imagine I can sell my bond 100 million in 20 euro tranches instead of 5,000 euro tranches. I can reach maybe 5 million people for 20 francs. And this means that I don't need the big investors that ask me a higher spread. I can really save a lot of money on the spread because I reach so many people at the same time with small amounts, which today is not possible because of the cost of, investing in bonds through a bank. That's a little bit what my message. So do go for bonds on digital so we can really make the market work.
Thanks, Paolo. I am going to come to Dina in about 10 seconds, but just one thing you said, which is I think you said you predict or foresee a Swiss CBDC in the next 2 years. Do you also mean a retail CBDC?
No, wholesale.
Yeah.
Wholesale, yeah.
Just wholesale, yeah.
Yeah.
Just checking on that.
First step, wholesale, then in the future, who knows? So
yeah, okay. No, I thought that was the case, but just
no.
Okay.
For what I know, they just look into wholesale. They're not interested in retail.
Yeah,
but I'm not the Swiss National Bank, so you should ask them.
I think you're right there. I think that's been the consistent message from the Swiss National Bank on that. So I think you're right there. Dina, your final reflections on the question from Latvia.
I think in the future we will see even more financial services which are using the blockchain technology. Just because really it's cheaper, it's faster, and it involves, let's say, less human resources. It's obvious. We are embracing this idea that we should go to the next level of bond issuance, and especially looking at the green bonds and at sustainable bonds, which comes in this right time for the green transition, and of course more widespread use of the blockchain technology for the public sector as well, for smart contracts, for possibility to make tax payments also in virtual currencies, and this is a potential for this technology.
Thanks, Dina. Thank you, Dina. That's fantastic. I should say Dina is one of our panelists at an event that Global Government FinTech has got coming up in Ireland on the 18th of May called the Global Government FinTech Lab, where we have a session on blockchain, but I'll briefly mention that as we close as well. Nina, if I can come back to you then in Slovenia, just your final up to 60 seconds, if that's okay, for any concluding remarks.
Yes, Jan, thank you. First of all, I think that we will transform the classical finance system into more decentralized one. We, for the using blockchain technology, we need to know it's okay. DLT is decentralized distributed ledger technology. So the decentralization is inherent, and on the other side, to achieve decentralized concept, we will need to build strong trust systems, smart contracts that will bring that security, safety into the day-to-day transactions, also for the financial instrument and financial products. Blockchain bonds can be one of the financial instruments for the future, but we certainly other financial instruments that will be even more developed, using smart contracts, using other technologies, ensuring that trust-based manner of operation, and also embracing the innovation into the financial sector system. Thank you.
Thanks, Nina. That's great. Bruno, before I come to you for the final word, I like to try and answer all the audience questions, and I know that Paolo has been responding in the chat box to 2 or 3 of them, but there is a question, a fairly kind of short question that really is for you, Bruno, which is from Tom Shaw, and the question is: the Brazilian CBDC, will this be on a private blockchain or a decentralized blockchain, e.g. Ethereum? I can't remember now, sorry if your slides touched on that, but Bruno, I don't know if you're able to answer that specific question, but if you are, please do so. If not, that's your kind of closing remarks.
Perfect. First, I'll address the question, and then I'll give like a quick closure remarks. Regarding the question, yeah, it's like a private, a permissioned network, but we will be using an EVM compatible network. The name is Quorum from Hyperledger. And the thing is that although we will be able to onboard a lot of what we've been watching on public blockchains, such as Ethereum, because since it's EVM compatible, we can onboard protocols, tools. So a lot of the coding and the solutions that being out there, even in the centralized financial markets, DeFi, we can adapt and easily onboard. That's one of the reasons also that we went for an EVM compatible, but the network will be permissioned. So regarding the infrastructure, the nodes, the validators, but also on the application layer, what kind of financial protocols and service can be running on this network. The central bank and the market as a whole, they'll have like a level of governance, and we'll be onboarding and assessing the risks versus the benefits. So yeah, that's why it's permissioned. And we have to comply with a lot of local laws and regulations. So we have to have like a strong governance also. That was one of the reasons. And as a final message, just to add what our panelists just said, it's blockchain technology and DLT as a whole. They are very useful depending on the use cases. For instance, when we have products as financial structured products that need like to be packaged, or we have like a lot of conditionality, so we have like to rely on some logic and some programmability. Depending on the project, it makes a lot of sense to go for DLT and smart contracts. Although we're a central bank, we have a lot of our inspiration from decentralized finance. So we've been watching it closely. What are the possibilities? What are the risks and limitations? But we understand that programmability, not only on the payment side, the payment token, but also on the asset side, we will unlock a lot of different use cases and business models. So that's why I think the financial markets will change as we move from traditional financial market infrastructure to DLT financial market infrastructure. And that's why the central banks of Brazil digital real projects are quite of ambition, because we're trying to push on the national level this whole new financial market infrastructure for the Brazilian citizens.
Great, thanks, Bruno. Well, that's it, everyone. We've run a little bit over, but thank you to our panel, and thank you for the audience for your questions. We tried to get them answered. So what's next? Before we log off, I'd just like to re-mention our in-person event, the Global Government FinTech Lab, which we're organising in partnership with Ireland's Department of Finance, and will be held in Dublin on Thursday, the 18th of May. If you're interested in the possibilities at FinTech and are yet to register, I don't know why you're waiting. Find out more information on the website, and you can register already. As for this webinar, our team should already have sent you an email asking for feedback. It'd be great if you could take a moment to complete it and send it back. It was very useful. Our team will also send you a link to the video recording. And there'll also be an article as well on the website capturing the key messages. If you're yet to do so, I encourage you to subscribe to our weekly email bulletin and join our community as well on LinkedIn. But just to finally say, I'd like to thank again Paolo, Dina, Nina, and Bruno. Thank you again to the audience for joining us, and have a fantastic rest of the day.
Bye-bye.